With Sonic Frontiers on the horizon, and Sonic Prime following shortly after, got me thinking about all the different versions of Sonic that we've seen over the franchise's 30-year span. Everyone has their own idea of what the perfect Sonic is, but today I'm looking to share my take on the top 10 Sonics. My reasoning is going to be all over the place. It could be anywhere from I like the design to I like the voice, and it could also just be purely nostalgia. And before we get started, I just want to take a moment to welcome everyone to the return of Jot Shots. So let's get started, and remember to comment down below what you consider to be your top 10 Sonics, or of course you can just hear me out about my picks. I don't really give a shit, whatever you want to do. Just happy to see you here. Number 10. Movie Sonic. I think we can all agree that it took far too long for us to see Sonic make his debut on the big screen, but when he finally arrived, we were given arguably one of the best video game movies. We won't even bother really talking about Ugly Sonic, but we will give props to the current movie Sonic. The current movie Sonic design toes a nice line between being faithful and maintaining realism. Well, as real as a fucking blue anthropomorphic hedgehog can be, but he looks great. I'd probably even describe the textured hair, fur, quills, whatever you want to call it, as being kind of adorable. Ben Schwartz does an amazing job of bringing the character together and giving a performance that I would consider to be an homage to the sort of like 90s Jaleel White Sonic. It's almost got this vibe that like if Sonic had replaced Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. It's kind of weird. The biggest downfall of movie Sonic has to be those ugly ass shoes. I fucking hate those things, which is why he's stuck up here at the number 10 spot. Maybe one day movie Sonic will get some drip. I could probably see him wearing some Air Maxes. Number 9. Classic North American or Greg Martin Sonic. In North America, if you were around in the 90s, you were bound to see Greg Martin's pot-belly depiction of Sonic. Whenever you walked into a video store or a game aisle, this is the face you were greeted with. From game covers to promo art, you just see this chunky fella giving you that devilish smile. He had this sort of smile and body language that was kind of saying like, hey, I'm here to stop rude dudes, but at the end of the day, bitch, you better have my money for them chili dogs. This package of wacky cartoon influence and almost punk rock energy kind of helped Sonic maintain an elite dominance that Sega was doing what the fuck Nintendo don't. This beloved version of Sonic is showing up at number 9 because he is an important part of the Sonic legacy and a large chunk of Sonic's success outside of Japan, which leads us to our number 8 spot. Number 8. Geek Sonic. In my mind, Geek Sonic and Greg Martin are almost synonymous. Greg Martin's depiction of Sonic very clearly had a large influence over the Sonic we would see presented in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and of course, Sad AM. Both shows had Sonic maintaining his chunky goofball aesthetic, but built it up even further with Jaleel White's vocal performance. Sonic had more than a up-to-no-good appearance. He had the voice to match. Almost like he was a more controlled, family-friendly Bart Simpson, except with doing good deeds, but I wouldn't put it past Geek Sonic to drop a Eat My Shorts somewhere along the line. Geek Sonic is ultimately what sold me on wanting to be a Sonic fan in the first place, and that was before I even owned a Genesis. But yeah, I should probably add one more thing. If you're wondering why I acted like Sonic Underground doesn't exist when I'm talking about Deke, it's because it doesn't. I kind of think that shit is ass. Like, honestly, fuck Sonic Underground. Number 7. Boom Sonic. Alright, so I kind of get what you're probably thinking right now. Like, why Jot? Why is Boom Sonic here? Well, I had never watched Boom, but my opinion of Boom Sonic was originally formed around the fact that the game or games were terrible. I finally decided to give the show a chance, and after a few episodes, I gotta admit, man, the redesign is actually kind of sick, and the quality of the show really isn't as bad as I thought it was. With modern Sonic having virtually the same model for like the past 10 years, it was kind of a breath of fresh air. The whole thing with like the bandana around the neck and the overly wrapped arms and legs, it was kind of drippy, man. It's edgy, but it's drippy. The funny thing is that when I started compiling the list, I kind of joked that maybe he would get an honorable mention, but I've always been a fan of Sonic's edgier renditions, which brings us to the number 6 spot. Number 6. Uekawa's Adventure Era Sonic. In the late 90s, it was all about redefining yourself for the next generation to come. Everybody was trying to break boundaries, bare fangs, and take no bullshit. and most importantly, to look cool as fuck doing it. Now, if someone were to ask me to show them something that kind of summed up all these feelings and emotions, I'm probably going to point them to the case of Sonic Adventure. He was sleek, had a stylish pose, and Sonic was looking full of confidence. In simplest terms, Adventure Sonic was really just bold and gave zero fucks. He was ready to carry Sega into the new century and show us that he wasn't holding back. Now, unfortunately, we can't say that's what really happened with the ill-fated Dreamcast, but I think all Sonic fans can appreciate Sega's attempt to go all in. Even to this day, Uekawa's Sonic design is highly respected and coveted. Just look at companies like Stray Rats and High Ground celebrating this era of Sonic. With how many people really love these designs, you would think that they actually owned a Dreamcast, and if they did, maybe Sega wouldn't have had to bail on the console market. But even with that being said, I'm sure a lot of people's first experiences with like Adventure and Adventure 2 were probably on the GameCube or Steam or something like that. But hey, as they say, hindsight is 20/20, and I'm thankful that this era still even has its day in the sun. Sega might have lost the console wars, but they established Sonic forever as a king in a time capsule. Now at this point, I've already covered some of the larger eras of Sonic, so what could be at the middle ground? It's gotta be the perfect go-to, the truly reliable, the gotta be good but not too great, just doing enough. And that's why we're going with groundbreaking graphics, exceptional service, the ultimate value. Of course, we're talking about that Sonic DriveIn, baby. They got fucking everything, man. Cheese sticks, burgers, chicken tenders, and most importantly, half-price fucking drinks. Let's go, baby. Nothing is better than Sonic on the go. Fuck the Game Gear, the Game Boy, the DS, the Switch. Fuck all that shit. We got tots in the slot and burgers in the spot. The best part is that you'll get more gameplay out of this restaurant than you would with Sonic Forces. Why spend $40 on a 2-hour piece of shit when you can spend $10 and get fucking lit? Thanks for holding it down, Sonic DriveIn. We salute you. Classic Japan. As I mentioned earlier with Greg Martin's rendition, North America was granted the goofball. Meanwhile in Japan, they were seeing a more reserved Sonic. He was still packing a confident smile, but not packing the rebellious energy that his Western counterpart displayed. He was still round, but he wasn't really chunky. The only common ground both fan bases got to see was in the games themselves, and other than that, we were seeing two different versions. Greg Martin and Geek Sonic might have been my gateway into the franchise, but upon discovery, I've always kind of leaned more towards the vibe and designs of Japan's classic Sonic. Japan's classic Sonic is at number 4 because he would serve as the building blocks for my next choices. Number 3. Junio Sonic. Junio Sonic is coming in at number 3 because it's always been one of my favorite pieces of Sonic material. Dripping with pure 90s anime appeal, he had gorgeous lines and slimmer proportions. To top everything off, he really had this vibe that his gloves and shoes were almost overgrown for him, and it was almost like a weird symbolism that he was still growing into the hero that we needed him to be. He was still determined, but in a different manner than the overly confident Sonics that I had previously seen. He didn't have that arrogance. We were treated with this wonderful design being placed in a beautiful animation that gave us the sense of speed, adventure, and freedom that Sonic should have honestly always had. Kind of a weird side note here, but every time I see the Sonic CD opening, it always reminds me of the opening shot of Smile Bomb from Yu Yu Hakusho. I've always craved the idea of seeing more of this type of Sonic, and that brings us to number 2. Studio Pierrot's OVA Sonic. So like I talked about in Jot Shot number 4, Hooked on Sonic, I spent a large chunk of my childhood renting tapes of Sad AM and Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. But when I finally saw the OVA available for purchase for the first time, I grabbed it as soon as I could. The OVA holds a special place in my heart because it was my first experience with the different kind of Sonic, and more than likely takes the number 2 spot just because of nostalgia. But that's probably why Pierrot and Junio kind of go hand in hand for me, because they provide the same sort of energy. I associate seeing them with the peak of my Sonic interest and some of my fondest memories. And with Junio and Pierrot taking the 3rd and 2nd spots respectively, it's only natural that my next spot is number 1. Tyson Hess. I know that Tyson Hess has been drawing Sonic for a while, but I first got to see his work with Sonic Mania. From the moment I had seen the opening animation, I was a fan. I've since learned that he's done a lot for Sonic. He's worked on various comics, and he was even a major hand in the redesign of movie Sonic. And with the more pieces I see by him, I feel that he truly has a grasp on what Sonic should be. Mania Sonic, in my mind, is a massive love letter to the Sonic designs I grew to appreciate the most. It's a culmination of the best parts of Piero and Junio slammed together to give us a contemporary approach to classic Sonic. We were no longer getting a split depiction of Eastern or Western Sonic, we were getting one unified understanding of who classic Sonic was always meant to be, and truly reminding the fandom of why Sonic will forever be deserving of the crown that he held during Sega's console war days. So in short, thank you Tyson Hess, thank you for everything you've done and showing the old head Sonic fans that someone understands. We appreciate you. So, there you have it, that's Jot's Top 10 Sonics. With so many great iterations of Sonic, this was far tougher than I expected. If you had asked me years ago, I probably would have told you that Uekawa's Sonic was my favorite, but time and taste change everything, and I'm really happy with the selections I've made. I'm glad that Frontiers got me thinking about the many faces of the blue blur. Here's to hoping that roaming the world of Frontiers will make players feel that sense of freedom that we saw in the Junio animations. To all the new viewers, make sure to like and subscribe. And to all the returning viewers that waited and pushed for me to bring Jot Shots back, you were heard. Thank you for being so patient with me, and I know it took far, far too long. But hey, later is better than never, right? So, to many more videos and many more stories. Oh, and of course, I can't forget to remind y'all, no brain, just aim.